For more than 30 years, David Bowie has been challenging the limits of artistic expression. He first made his mark in the 1970s with the flamboyant, surreal stage persona Ziggy Stardust. In the 80s, he ascended to superstardom with enormously successful commercial albums, particularly 1983's Let's Dance. He's known as an innovator, a creative artist blending the worlds of music and film and art. Last year, he ventured into publishing with the launch of 21, an independent art publishing house. I am pleased to have him here to talk about a life in music, in film, and now in publishing and art. Welcome. It's great to see you.
Good evening, Charlie.
Well, it's nice to have you back.
Follow that.
Can we do this without Julian? I suspect we can, can't we?
We're never doing it without Julian. Julian will always be there in spirit.
All right. Let me go all the way back because I want to move sort of where you have come to, being what you're doing today. South London, yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, just tell me about where you wanted to be and what it was that influenced you and what it was that got you started.
When I was at school, I was in an art stream, and I guess everything was geared for me to be an artist, a visual artist, and a painter, and/or a commercial artist. And I think for about the first 6 months when I left school, I was a commercial artist, making money that way. But I was playing saxophone in the evenings. Right. With rhythm and blues bands. And I found that I didn't like doing designer work for sort of raincoats and Slimming biscuits. Yes. A now defunct Slimming biscuit, actually, that we worked on called AIDS.
Called what?
It was called AIDS.
Yeah.
That was the Slimming biscuit that we were working on. That is no more, of course. And I found that I was earning as much money playing the saxophone in the evening, and it was giving me a lot more pleasure because I was my own master of that. And so I gave up the commercial art and stayed with the saxophone.
It went from one
thing
to another.
Led to another. Yeah.
Well, rather over a period of time there in the 60s. But Presley influenced you? Little Richard influenced you?
Little Richard, very much so. Presley, because I think he was just such an indomitable spirit of music in his early days. And it was reckless, and it was really quite a rebellion that he cast upon America and the whole of Western society, really, single-handedly. The White West, anyway.
Yeah.
Little Richard and Fats Domino, of course, the early rockers, and then into things like John Lee Hooker, and also by the 60s, I fell in love with a band called the Velvet Underground, and
right.
I think they sort of sorted me out the kind of music that I wanted to write. Not really like them, but I took the tip from them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You were going from one band to another. I mean, I've never seen such a list of bands that you were associated with.
Yeah. A weaker band, yeah.
A weaker band?
Yeah.
Yeah. All going to do what? I mean, just to be a musician and to...
Yeah, I couldn't make... I mean, I wasn't very resolute about the idea of being a singer. I played saxophone. I wanted to do that, but a singer was beaten up one night, and so I took over the vocals, and it went down okay, and so I stayed on as singer, and then I got disenchanted with the songs that we were doing. I wanted us to write our own, and they didn't want to write songs. So I got thrown out the band, and then, you know, it was all those kinds of changes.
When was
it was fairly sort of, it was really, that's a pretty stereotypical beginnings for any person out of England, I think.
How did
But the interesting thing is the percentage of people in rock music that in fact have some kind of art background compared to American bands. A lot of American bands often come from a different kind of background. It's very often a blue-collar kind of background.
Right.
And they're probably brought up in more industrial towns, and they're...
Like Springsteen in New Jersey.
Is a typical example. I think in Britain there was really a penchant for anybody studying... Oh, you went to art school to learn how to play the guitar better, it seems to me. And so many of us ended up in rock bands. And I think that gave English rock its kind of character. It gave it the strange quirkiness that it has. I mean... For sure, mine draws on not just rock, but vaudeville and avant-garde. You know, it can wear a red nose and sort of take its clothes off at the same time.
This notion of you as an iconoclast, this sense of always striking out to sort of, as we say, push the edges of the envelope. Where does that come from?
I'm not sure if it's iconoclastic. I think my ideal more is a synthesis. Rather than anything else. I have always liked the idea of the cybernetics of our culture, the way that you can draw several strands together and create a new thing. I hope and believe that it's that what I do is more of a creative thing in that way. That I think it's fine to draw from opera or from the visual arts, from the underground, from mainstream, and just produce a new blend, which is probably a more complete way of describing the way that we live, and creating a sense of the cultural spin by amalgamating all these different threads. That's what I think anyway.
Well, one of
that's it, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
One of the things that people have always said about you is you keep an eye on what's going on with what is new.
I can't take my eyes off them. I've got an incredible appetite for what we do and how we do it and how we express it. And ever since I was a kid, I always want to know what's out there. I've always wanted to know what's happening.
Do you think of yourself first as a musician?
I mean, no, actually, I find that the idea of having to say that I'm a musician in any way is an embarrassment to me, because I don't really believe that. I've always felt that what I do is I use music for my way of expression. I don't believe I'm very accomplished at it. And I give a little sigh of relief every time that I come up with something which sounds whole and complete and sort of functions as a piece of music. I mean, sort of... fortunately, it does seem to be there all the time. I never seem to go dry when it comes to writing music, but I don't feel like a musician.
Because you don't feel that you have that talent?
Because probably I don't really take myself seriously enough as a musician at all. I'm far too interested, probably too interested for my own good, but I'm far more interested in the blending of different things. And I just can't, I have the attention span of a grasshopper, which means that it's very difficult for me to become a craftsman. I suppose that I'm quite promiscuous and a jack of all trades, artistically, of course, you know. Monogamy and me are like this, you've got to understand this, Charlie. You know, life's changed, it's moved along, we've reached a plateau of maturity. I've changed.
We behave, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do.
What's the...
We know a good thing when we see one.
Yes, we do. We certainly do.
Funny how life changes, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
We're synthesizers, though, aren't we?
We were. Boy, did I synthesize in my time.
Yes, you certainly did. But you don't regret any of it. You don't regret any of it.
I don't actually regret. I don't regret a thing.
One lives one's life so that one can become
times.
So that one can become whatever one is destined to be.
One wakes up at night sweating.
And one has to travel the road and stop wherever life leads him.
Many of mine were cul-de-sacs, but I understand you got a suit like this, John.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Do you have one like this?
Exactly like that.
Exactly like when you go see your banker.
Yeah, I wore it in the hunger.
Did I see something the other day where you were worth like $800 million? $900
million.
900 it
yes.
was. Is that true?
I'm waiting for the check. It's the most...
Everybody who knows you is
everybody
is digging up in your backyard saying, where is he keeping it?
Had so many new friendships since that article appeared. I can't tell you. I feel so beloved everywhere I go. It's absolute garbage. Complete and utter crap.
Okay, 800 million.
Absolutely nowhere near that.
Yeah.
No, that's. I have no idea where they pull that figure from. It's just incredible.
But have you been good at taking money that you...
Very good, but I'm not
taking money
not
that
good
you
enough
had
to earn 900 million.
Not that good.
Not that
good. Movies. A long series of movies.
Yes, I've enjoyed doing the movie.
But you don't think of yourself as an actor either?
No, not really. In fact, no, not at all. And I guess it's a vanity that when you are offered a part, if it's with a director that you have a real interest in, or you feel has a new spin on things, it's very tempting to accept the role. And this year I just did another piece with an independent company, a new director, a brand new director. It's his first film. Nearly everybody involved in the thing is brand new, and the star of it is a musician in Britain that I got a lot of respect for called Goldie, and he's sort of really the godfather of a new kind of music that's come out of England over the last 10 years called drum and bass. And this is his first role, and it really tells the story of gang life in Liverpool, and in particular, I guess the mixed race gangs and the triad, as there's some kind of conflict there. And it's an extraordinary venture, and so far it looks to be a really great film. I think it's going to make quite a noise when it comes out. It's an excellent piece of work. I had no idea. Goldie asked me if I would do it with him, and I had no idea what to expect, and I just wanted to do it because I liked him and all the guys that he was sort of with, and it's just turned out to be a treat. That's called Everybody Loves Sunshine.
But you have in fact said that the only movies you do are those in which you like the director and you want to do
There's got to be something in there that I really feel that I have strong empathy with, you know. And of course, you know about me and SKs and, you know,
yes.
the military and all that.
What is it you think you do best?
You know what? I think I would love to have been. I would love to have been like Sting, and been a teacher. I really would have liked to have done that. What really sort of gets me off is to be able to introduce people to new things. I love the feeling of introducing a new subject or something, especially to younger people, that maybe excites them and gets them going on something and it influences them to do something, you know, opening up some kind of world. I love taking people to art galleries and really corny things like that. I love going to museums with them as well. And it's a joy that I've always had with my son especially. It's been just terrific to be able to do that. Take him to the theatre 1 week maybe, and then take him to a dance club or a rock show and then an art museum and all these different things. And it's just great to see how somebody else takes these same influences and puts them together their own way. Because I remember when people did that for me, I always felt it was a gift when anybody took me anywhere and or showed me a new way of doing things. I always felt that that was the greatest gift that they could give to me, and I love doing that back. I love showing people things like that. And I've got a website called BowieArt.com.
Right.
At the moment, it's quite a vanity box because it's all my stuff. But we do have quite a bit of information on the books with the publishing company.
All right, we'll get to that in just a moment. Let me
But also, no, my point is that in about 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to start putting on new artists. Artists that I believe are very good and really have something to say. And we're also opening it up more as an e-zine with a lot more articles. And I'm going to encourage the people that are using the site to contribute their ideas and maybe galleries or artists and work that they've seen and have them write in and tell us about it. I want to also get to a place where we can have them download work by artists from this site and interfere with it, manipulate it and put it back up again, which I think is a really nice interactive thing to do. Is to mess with an artist's work is, I think, great.
Well, I have a magazine here. One of the things that you do for modern painters is you interview artists.
Yeah. I enjoy that
Jeff
tremendously.
Koons and
yeah.
others.
And I try and make it a deal for myself not to interview anybody that I really don't feel is somebody who has some place or position in my heart as being a pretty good.
It's not somebody you like or curious about.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm a so-called celebrity interviewer, I kind of rather take advantage of that and just go for the people that I really want to interview. It's not a job in that way, you know, go and interview him or her, whatever. I kind of suggest the people.
You go where your curiosity takes you.
Yeah, well, if you got it, use it. You know.
You're painting. We're going to see a few here.
Okay.
How long have you been painting?
Probably, again, I guess it all started bubbling up to play music and sing and paint all around the same time. About 8 years old, I guess I started. Taking it seriously, when I was around 18 or 19, I took it more seriously. And it's gone through ups and downs, you know, zeniths and sometimes well, funnily enough, when music starts to decline in my interest, well, there are moments when you really feel like you haven't got it, that you've got nothing really to express, that it's going wrong, you've lost the plot. At those times, I found that painting has really sort of taken over, and I've produced an awful lot during that time. But they keep balancing each other around. I used to find that they would balance each other very well.
So when one's down, one is up.
Yeah, well, I had a way of working through musical problems by painting them out at one time, and that seems to have disappeared over the years. But
you've lost that ability?
Yeah. For one reason or another, that seems to have changed now.
All right, let's take a look at some of them, and then we'll come back. These are the kinds of images that have been downloaded. These have been, in fact, downloaded by our group here from your website, www.bowieart.com. Okay, let's take a look at the first thing. What's that? Could this be Iggy Pop, huh?
It certainly could be Iggy Pop. That's Iggy Pop in 1976, as I saw him, when we were living in Berlin. We just moved. We both had fairly severe drug problems. And so, to rectify that, we moved to Berlin, the heroin capital of the world, which I guess, in retrospect, doesn't sound like a terribly sensible
No, it doesn't sound very smart to me.
And that's a picture of Jim turning blue in his apartment in Berlin. That's a portrait of me turning into the Lion King.
This is 1995,
yes,
though.
Yeah. I was quite prescient with this because I knew that was going to be a musical.
Now, who influences you in your painting?
A lot of people influence me
yes, I know.
into not painting.
But we want to spare them the credit, don't we?
You know what? I have no loyalty to style whatsoever. I mean, one day I can be a complete minimalist and just paint a stick of wood white, and the next day I want to be quite florid and painterly and do something like the Iggy Pop painting.
But tell me the satisfaction of completing a painting where you're on, that you like a lot.
For me,
the satisfaction of that.
For me, to be quite frank, it's finishing it so I can get on to something else. I mean,
it's just getting
weird.
through it?
It's getting through it. It's the process. There's something in it that it just turns me to jelly. My heart and my mind just become... I can't explain it. It's a very strange feeling. It's not particularly pleasant either. I can't really say that I enjoy... I can't really say that I enjoy music or painting in quite that... I mean, it's not like sex or something which you can kind of really enjoy. There's something really... it's important. But there's something volatile, emotive, and something that makes me really quite angry about going through the process of both making music and doing visual arts. And,
but visuals arts
but you know, I guess that's my problem.
No, but let's deal with your problem.
If you deal with my problem, I might not be able to do these things again, you see. I'm wary of analysis.
Yes, sir, but let me point out to you, knowing your history and knowing your family and knowing your background, you have always resisted any suggestion. I want you to look over this way when I'm talking to
you. I'm getting deeply into those eyes.
Yes, I know you are. You were getting into those eyes, weren't you? Now, why are you
What's this about?
You have always resisted any notion that this creativity that you have comes from any sort of dysfunctional or madness out of family.
I think I've often wondered if actually being an artist in any way, any nature, is a kind of a sign of a certain kind of dysfunction, a social dysfunctionalism anyway. It's an extraordinary thing to want to do, to express yourself in such rarefied terms. I think I think it's a loony kind of thing to want to do. I think the saner and rational approach to life is to survive steadfastly and create a protective home and create a warm, loving environment for one's family and get food for them. That's about it. That's actually all. Anything else is extra. All culture is extra. Culture is, that's, I guess it's a freebie. It's something that we only need to eat. We don't need particular color plates or particular height chairs or anything. I mean, anything will do, but we insist on making 1,000 different kinds of chairs and 15 different kinds of plates. It's unnecessary, and it's a sign of the irrational part of man, I think. We should just be content with picking nuts. Not mine, I might add.
You were so on. Let me see the next slide. The next thing is an acrylic and computer collage on canvas.
Yeah. Yeah, what I do, I take a...
This is 1997, and we're not...
Yeah, no, we're very recent now. This is what it looks like now. It's not so expressionist, is it? There's a kind of...
no, there's nothing.
There's, I think probably I'm getting influenced by what's called bad painting, which is in vogue. If you want to know about bad painting, ask Charles Saatchi, because he bought everyone in England.
He did?
Every single bad painting in England, I believe.
And did he put him in...
Except that one. But he hasn't bought that one.
Did he put him in storage somewhere?
He's probably sold them by now. You know Charles.
Yes. All right, next slide.
Yes, bad painting meets expressionism. You see, I can do them all in combinations.
Yeah.
You just tell me who you want.
All right.
And you'll get it.
Yes.
That's what this is.
Is just
acrylic yeah, these are a series of paintings of people that come in and out of my life, and I just do very quick sketches and take photographs and Polaroids and produce very fast and, in a way, I think they're fairly accurate portraits.
And who might this be?
This is a trucker. No, there are not too many truckers in my life, Charlie, but this one obviously made a mark. It must have been the underhang. Yes. Would you call that an underhang? Well, it's not an overhang, is it?
No, well, I guess it could be an underhang.
So, yeah.
Next slide.
That was a rather, I guess...
Another self-portrait.
Yeah, but, these come from a series of 5 paintings that I did as a potential cover for an album called Outside, and this, in fact, was the one that I chose as the cover.
What happened to the album?
Not very much. It came out, and I think it was quite interesting. In fact, I'm supposed to be doing it as a theatre piece with Robert Wilson for the year 2000. So that's something that we're supposed to be meeting if either of us can find some kind of place where we're both in the same country at the same time.
Well, that would be right now, because he's in New York City.
Is he?
Yes.
I'd kill him for not phoning me.
Next slide.
Robert, wherever you are, contact me, will you? That's called Ancestor Figure.
This was inspired by a trip you went to South Africa in 1995 with Iman.
Yeah, we went over there just after Freedom called, and one of the stories prevalent in Africa is that the ghosts of one's ancestors are white, and often when white man was first seen, he was thought of as being one of the ancestors of the tribe, and so I just took that and did a series of ancestor figures with kind of Ziggy Stardust haircuts.
See, here's the picture I get.
Yeah.
All of it never goes away. It's all still there, so you can reach back and bring it forward and push it back and step forward.
Did I show you this? This is Charlie has this. It's an original piece of merchandise from my Ziggy Stardust tour.
I stole that long time ago.
We pressed 7 of these, and this is one of them.
Discovered. All right, next slide. We got 2 more, and maybe we're going to move on.
Yeah, I think we better. Well, that's obviously that's the female to the series.
Remember, America, if you want these, you can pick them up on the website.
Be my guest.
All right, next slide. This is Bill T. Jones. This is interesting.
Yeah, Bill T. Jones wanted, asked me if I would contribute some art to a benefit that he's throwing for dance, and this is one of 3 pieces, 3 lithographs that I did for him. Voila.
A couple of things about the music.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Let's Dance?
I think it became an incredible... I mean, it was an extraordinary acceptance that I had there. I'd never had anything quite like that before. Up until that time, I was quite happy being a sort of a major cult figure, in a way. You know, it was a nice place to be. It gave me a lot of freedom. I knew that I could depend on an audience that would virtually follow my whims, you know, and I could sort of do what I wanted. But the Let's Dance thing almost became a hindrance and obstacle. In fact, it did become a hindrance and obstacle to me, because I suddenly, my poles changed. But my focus was on, well, what are the audience's expectations of me now? And I started maybe writing for an audience, which I've never ever done before. And when I learned that that was for me a stupid thing to do, I got back into the way of writing for myself again, and I think balance has been, equilibrium has been arrived at now. I'm very, very happy with the way things are, both musically and the kind of simpatico that I have with my audience.
Everything got a lot of very good reviews.
It did indeed. I was so pleased about that, because it was an album that had no compromises on it whatsoever. It was very hard-nosed. I was just so pleased the way it was accepted. It was great. It was lovely. That's very nice when that happens.
When did you celebrate your 50th birthday?
Yeah.
When?
51 now, Charlie. 51 now.
Yeah, but you're not unhappy about that.
No,
I mean, you seem to have arrived at some acceptance. It might not have been as hard as 40 was for you.
No, but 40 was pretty difficult.
Because you didn't want to let go of the idea that you were still 20.
Everything was wrong. No, it's not. It was more about the fact that it was also my nadir as a musician. I was writing crap, and it just, nothing was going right artistically for me. I thought, you know, I thought I'd just tried. I was trying to write for audiences. It was right in the middle of that period, 1987. And it was just astonishingly awful time for me. And I think I just had to kind of almost, it's almost about pulling yourself together and saying, hey, I've got maybe this finite length of time left. I really would like to enjoy it. So, you know, stop self-pity and stop all these kinds of things and just pull yourself together and maybe make some decisions about what it is you really want out of life. And I think the first thing I wanted was each day to be really good. And so I had to go about changing everything in my life. Everything. And I've arrived now at a place that I hope that I'm not self-satisfied, but I'm certainly a fulfilled man. I'm fulfilled romantically, musically, artistically. I love my family. We're so close now. I have a terrific relationship with my son. Just, I can't tell you how great. And so it's something I just want to keep on the front burner every day. I just want it to be just like that until death strikes, you know, and that would be cool.
Good for you. All right, let me turn now, take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about publishing and about this latest venture.
Please.
21. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't.
As I noted in the earlier segment, David Bowie is involved in a publishing venture. It is called 21. It's an independent art publishing house launched last year in the UK. David Bowie founded it with 3 friends. It aims to reach a wide audience by producing accessible books on the visual arts. Its first title, Blimey, is an irreverent account of the London contemporary art scene. Joining me now with David Bowie to continue talking about art, one of its first authors, Matthew Collings, and 3 of its 4 partners. Karen Wright is editor of the art journal Modern Painters. London gallery owner Bernard Jacobson is here. And, of course, David Bowie continues with me. You introduce these people and tell me about this. I mean, how did all this come together? Who wants to do it?
Whoa. Oh, Lord.
You want to do it, Karen?
I'll
Who should do it? Okay, have a go at it.
Okay. Karen I've known for 25 years. Sorry, that's true.
Yeah.
And she had a gallery. She came from America, opened a gallery in Cambridge. And I thought she was miscast, and I thought she should be in publishing. So eventually she got involved in Modern Painters with, sadly, the person we launched it for, Peter Fuller, who was tragically killed.
Right.
David came in much later, about 5 years ago. I mean, just sort of, I love his company, I love his mind, and I love the fact we're on the same wavelength, basically. So he was brought in as well. And
He was brought in to do what? To do these
Well,
interviews for the magazine, or to do something else?
advise, write, everything. I mean, it just across the board.
He formally joined our editorial board.
And
he's on the
actually he's on our
editorial
editorial board, along with Lord Gower and other Richard Vaughan,
Yeah.
another very, you know.
We had him for a trial dinner, do you remember?
Yes, that's right. Yes, yes.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
I had to
did I?
pass the trial.
Yes, and it was a trial of fire, yeah, and he survived it.
And it was tough.
Yeah. I mean, there was a very kind of heavy.
I had to argue with Hilton Craig.
Yeah, it was a very heavy
That was
intellectual.
my
It was a very heavy
baptisal.
intellectual team.
That's a show I'd like to watch.
It was great.
I loved it.
Hilton loved him.
Yeah.
And it was this kind of.
I didn't want him to go. I could have argued all night.
Well, it was all these kind of heavyweight people, and you know, and then David, and they said, well, you know, he's a pop star, you know, and then you know, as the evening went on, it was like, oh, he's read a book or two, oh, he knows a thing or two, and slowly they're going, oh, we love him, and so eventually he became part of the team. He's very much part of the team.
How is this magazine different from any other?
Well, basically, we want to get, if I may say, we're basically trying to get away from what I call art speak. It's basically meant to be just good reading, intelligent reading, so that it's not meant for just like the 200 people who care about art in the world, but actually thousands of people who care about art.
Listen to this. David Bowie with Jeff Koons, William Boyd, the story of Nat Tate, Brian Robertson on Robert Rauschenberg, Martin Gayford on Frank Stella, Jed Pearl, Art in New York, Richard Wellheim, Kids of Survival, Norbert Linton with Dora. Ashton, David Hockney, TV is dead. And whoa, David.
That's a little joke. I mean,
You don't deal with anything controversial.
And Rick Moody, Art After Art. So this is...
Yeah, Rick Moody. That's a terrific little article. Rick
Art After Art?
Rick came through. I mean, he's a wonderful writer, and I was so happy that he came through with such a nice article.
One of the other big things we wanted to do from the very, very beginning was to try and get real writers involved, you know, novelists, playwrights, and there's been a very heavy emphasis on that. People like Julian Barnes, Jay McInerney's writing on the next issue.
What's he writing on?
Karen?
You say it.
I think it's okay to say Fonseca.
Fonseca.
It's called Fonseca.
You're having
He's
this
very intrigued by
pronunciation on the way down.
And it's somebody I wasn't very familiar with. He's about to have a show here in New York next month.
Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah.
I know. So he's writing a piece about him.
Yeah. So it's very much a kind of a mix of people who are kind of, you know, interested in the arts.
I think another thing we're trying to do is that, as you notice, there are a lot of writers who are not primarily known for being involved in the visual arts. I think the idea is that an opinion is a very valuable thing, and if it's well put and there's some kind of brain power behind it, that whatever that opinion is on, it's worth having. And I feel that, personally, that it doesn't necessarily have to just fall into the laps of the art world to write about art, you know.
Well, no, don't. I think that's a pretty good idea. I mean, basically, that's the essence of what you're saying, is that we don't just want to leave art to those who traditionally inhabit the art world.
Yes.
Yeah, most art magazines are kind of
house
kind of trade journals.
Yeah.
You know, like trade journals about cars or houses or Hoovers or something. Most art magazines are so narrow in the way that they talk about art that it can really only be read by ultra-professionals.
So if I put Art in America next to your magazine, you would know the difference?
Yes, absolutely. There's much more of a range of voices in this
Here.
Range of tone
and
of voices.
much more voices, I don't want to say, much more voices outside of traditional art world. Yes?
Outside the traditional art criticism world.
Right. That's right.
But also there are a lot of heavyweight art academics writing for it as well.
Okay.
I mean, so it's a mix.
It's meant to tempt
and I must say, every issue, Matt Collins is the first. Matt Collins' diary is the first piece read by whoever it is.
Now, how good is Bowie as an interviewer?
He's excellent.
He is.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
He's getting better.
He's getting better.
I touch the parts of the...
you raise the questions they don't want to talk about.
Yeah, he does.
I do come back to
Coons
that.
interview. It's the best one with Coons has ever been, I think.
Why?
Fantastic insight into Coons' character, great affection for him, very great sympathy for him, but not sort of letting him get away with anything where he might say something you can't understand what he's saying, keeps probing and picking.
I'm quite fan-like in that way, and I've learned a lot from my fans, because I find that the ones who really are into my work really pull me apart, you know, they really have a go at me, and they're not kind of fawning at all, and I felt that, well, that's kind of how I feel. I really want to know about my favourite artists and what makes you tick, Jeff? I'm not sure if I quite got the tick-tock, but I certainly felt that he was very generous with his time and allowed me to maybe get nearer to possibly what he's all about than maybe others have done, because he's really great. He's a great American artist.
Well, I think the point's well taken. It is this notion that the people this is a fandom idea, you know, the best critics I know genuinely love the art or the performing art that they write about. The best. They love it.
Yeah, you
they
get
care
off on
about
their
it.
passion when you read them. That's what
they may be the
draws
most
you in.
critical, but they're brought there by genuine love and not a cynicism.
Yes, that's
right.
Yeah, they're crusaders.
It's easy to be nasty, but it's much harder to be generous.
Cynicism makes a lot more money. That's why it's so popular.
Exactly.
It's a real great, it's a career opportunity.
Yeah, it is easier.
It's a lucrative one.
And sometimes, and unfortunately, it's become identified, even in my profession, with talent. And it's not talent.
Cynicism is passe. We're going back into an age of romanticism. Watch.
But I think the other thing we did with the magazine, and it's in these interviews, is give people space to write. Art magazines always had very short articles, and we've given people length, and the interviews length, and they make them very special by having length to develop and length to grow in.
Take me from this magazine now to 21, which is publishing books like Fly Me.
Well, Matt was typical of a person who was writing for the magazine, whose diaries were getting better and better, who has a long association with the magazine from being a proofreader in day one to writing. He was a wonderful proofreader. We didn't have so many mistakes.
But why a publishing company?
I'm going into.
I think it's a true extension. It just comes straight out of the magazine. You know, let's have books. I mean, the magazine's great when it comes out 4 times a year. Let's have books on the same subject. There's so many books that haven't been published. That
It's
should
an
be
art
published.
publishing company, isn't it? Not just a publishing company.
Yeah, it's just on art.
The same aims for the magazine are the aims for the publishing company.
But it extends
in fact, we go full of rein to the idea that we can widen the spectrum. I think that's what we felt that we could do with the book publishing company, that we may find that there were going to be certain parameters with the magazine that we possibly in the future wouldn't actually be able to do much about. But I think that the few of us got together and thought, well, let's have a book publishing company of our dreams, that really it starts from day one with nothing, and we can just go and build it, and it'll almost build itself with our own quite diverse interests. We're not all in agreement about everything, which the amount of friction that causes is just the right amount of friction that makes a publishing company something of interest and is vibrant and has a resonance. You know.
But is there an operative idea that there's money to be made in art books?
No.
I think it's possible, but you know, maybe I'm an optimist.
Tell me about this.
Blimey.
This is a look at the London art scene.
Yeah.
Pronounced as Dick Van Dyke would pronounce it.
Yeah, blimey. It's a look at the current London art scene, but allowing the story to go back a bit to the 1950s and the time of Francis Bacon.
Yeah.
So the title is actually Blimey, from Bohemia to Britpop.
That's right, it is.
The London art world from Francis Bacon to Damien Hirst. So reading it, you get a very vivid picture of a living art world, the sights and smells
of
a
jump from Francis Bacon
people.
to Damien Hirst.
Yeah, it's a jump, but actually they overlapped in time. And Francis Bacon saw some work by Damien Hirst, thought it was quite good.
Is that right?
It's not such a leap. So it's a leap in type from, you know, painting to objects where you can hardly describe what they are. But maybe in attitude and mood, they're maybe quite close.
You meet Lucian Freud about halfway through.
Yeah, you meet Lucian Freud. You go around through me, you're walking through the streets of London and you meet these artists and you hear about them. And it's a sort of mixture of my own autobiography and meeting people and chatting to them and having encounters with them, and then through that thinking about the big ideas of art and the big moments of art as they've occurred in London over the last 40 or 50 years or something. So it's neither wholly anecdotal and chatty nor wholly theoretical or academic. It's kind of a mixture of those things.
Is there, when we originally began to plan this program, I was going to come out and do a conversation with you, then we're going to bring you two on, hoping we get some kind of something going on here. Is there some basic disagreement you have about art or anything?
I'm sure there's disagreements about the value of certain artists' work. I'm very tolerant of people's artists' work of certain artists' work in there, which
there isn't.
I know that. You see, now he's not agreeing. he's disagreeing by agreeing. But
well, I think we all have. We're all having a very different stance here. I mean, I would say. I mean,
he hates all the artists in there.
Yeah, well, I must say. I mean, I said.
I'm very kind to them all, even.
Yeah,
though,
I mean,
he does have a problem with the majority of those artists. Well,
I mean, I basically say, which pisses everybody off, that I say that there's nothing after Cézanne. You know, it's all showbiz after that. I mean, I just do it to annoy people.
But basically, things like that, and you wonder why he's involved in the same companies.
But there's a kind of truth in it. You know, you kind of think, okay, well, you know, Picasso certainly is good, and Matisse is great, and then you kind of think, well. Yeah, and then there's Pollock, and he's really amazing. And so it does go on. Yeah. Okay, Pollock's great. So, you know, it's sort of quite hard. And then David is pretty good in convincing, you know, that I should look at these people, and he does it with a great sort of charm and with conviction. And I do find myself looking at something I dream of looking
But is this a game or not? I mean,
no, I think we're dead serious about art and us.
About the fact that you find nothing redeeming.
Well, I can't say I don't find anything. I guess I'm old-fashioned, and I do believe in heroes. I do believe in greatness. I believe in these things, which I don't think in this kind of television age that it's quite the same. The rules are different now. I think they are different.
So there is no Cézanne, there's no Matisse, there's no Picasso, there's no
Pollock.
Pollock.
I don't think so. Well, I mean, maybe Frank Stella, You know, possibly. I mean, again, I'm biased, but I think he maybe Rauschenberg. But there are very few real greats.
Well, how do you feel now that Frank Stella's painting, well, having other people do his paintings for him? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You wouldn't have said that if it wasn't Frank Stella. If I came to you and said, do you like this painting?
Jeff Koons having his painting.
Yeah.
I don't mind him having some paintings.
But you only don't mind because you found out that Frank Stella's doing the same thing.
No, Frank Stella had people painting his pictures in the 60s.
Oh,
yeah. Which is fine. I mean, no, I think that's okay. I don't mind that.
What do you think of Jeff Koons?
I think he's absolutely charming.
As an individual?
Yeah.
And what about his art?
Well, it's definitely
what about
very
the sculpture that's over at the Bilbao?
I'm intrigued. I'm very confused.
Good. What, that puppy?
Yeah, the puppy.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's something amazing. It's definitely amazing.
Cézanne would have been jealous of that. He would have been
of the puppy.
Yeah. He would have been shocked that he couldn't do it. The times are so different.
I don't know. It's
but you basically are saying that modern art, for the most part, is full of
showbiz.
I
think there's a lot of that, yeah. Which is maybe fine, by the way. I think that maybe it's
I think that show business is full of a lot of modern art. I think it's precisely the other way around. I think show business is becoming a shelter for the old avant-garde.
What about...
Well, Matt and I were discussing this a few minutes ago, and you know,
discussing what
about this business of where art ends and showbiz and
in a way we sort of agree but have different conclusions. We agree because I think in a way Bernie's right in that actually a certain type of art has come to an end. We don't know when it ended, but a certain type of the art that really does connect to Cézanne or Van Gogh or even pre-modern art has ended. The type of art in Blimey and the type of art that Jeff Koons does is in a way a new kind of thing. It's still art, but it's not really... one has to admit a kind of break between old art, even old modern art. It's contemporary art is kind of different.
All right, let me just...
That doesn't mean it's worse or bad, or that it's only showbiz, or that it's only plastic or shallow.
But it's coming from somewhere else. From some other
that's about the type of world that we live in. The culture's changed. You know.
And it's coming from different visual.
All right, let me just throw four names out. All right. De Kooning.
Yeah.
Good.
Great artist.
Great artist. He's a great artist.
He's a connection to the past. He's a sort of bridge.
He's a bridge.
The old and the new.
Jasper Johns.
A very good artist.
Very good. Andy Warhol.
Excellent. Very good artist. But certainly of the new type of art, definite break between him and Cézanne.
And that was probably the first one, wasn't it? In a way.
In a way, yeah. The next book that's a bit like Blimey starts with Warhol. It's about the New York art world. Goes from Warhol to now.
The one that Matt's working on now.
The subtitle will be what?
The interesting thing of the three artists so far, I think they had their moments. I don't think that their output was had a continuity.
What, Johns and Warhol?
Yes.
Who would you add to it?
Their moments.
We've covered Pollock and Rauschenberg.
I think the later work wasn't anywhere near. Wasn't a patch on what he was doing initially.
Who?
In Warhol.
The later work was not nearly as good.
No. I think it applies to de Kooning, and I think it also applies to Johns.
Yeah.
I think you get an agreement on that, don't you? I think everybody would agree with that.
I think de Kooning has one or two moments of different, where he does a very, in the 60s and 70s, he does this very sort of sloppy pink art that people are dismayed by because his early art was so rigorous and grim and hard and slashing, and so they think if it's floppy it can't be good, but it was sort of kind of very good floppy. I think it's true about, I think Warhol got more decorative and glitzy, and at first there was something rather harsh, but in fact it's actually in Warhol's later life that people started to notice that early work had that really black, dark side to it. At the time when Warhol was doing at the time, people assumed, wow, it's pop, how groovy.
It almost focused the early work when he did the later.
You look back on early Warhol now, it seems very dark.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think these are the names. I think these are the great names that are going to end the century.
Yeah, they are the big names.
These are the people going to end the century.
And
I mean, if we look at the middle of the century, when I kind of arrived, as a kid looking at art, it was. Leger, Chagall, Picasso, Miro.
Chagall, everyone's forgotten about Chagall.
Oh, great artists, But I mean, these were the great artists in the middle of the century, and we're ending the century now with Lichtenstein, Warhol, Stella, Johns.
Lichtenstein, what do you think of Lichtenstein?
I think he's a great artist. Yeah, I think he's a great artist.
But I don't want to. Here's what I don't
get.
In this
television age, go on.
Okay, but help me understand in terms of, there's Cézanne at the turn of the century. There was Cézanne, Picasso, Matisse. Okay,
Yes.
Isn't,
Okay.
it, all,
Yeah,
isn't it also personal, though? Isn't it really also personal?
No, I don't think it is.
Is it by consensus an artist is great, if numerically enough people like that artist, that he becomes
But
a
I
great
think we-
artist?
I think-
mean, Lichtenstein for me is not a great artist.
That
so
sounds like
therefore,
box office.
how can he be a great artist if I don't think he's a great artist? I think he did. He had a great gag for the first few years, and then he just did it and did it and did it, and then he died. I don't know that makes him.
Artists do that.
What?
But yeah,
Lots of artists do that.
Yeah.
His great gag was great.
It's the Lynn
but
Chadwick
it was a
thing.
big.
Great
but it's
gag,
a-
it's great.
I think I think you might find, and I'm not sure, you might find that these people, like Stella, Johns, Rauschenberg, Lichtenstein, might dwarf the abstract expressionists. You might find in 20 years' time they will be the great late 20th century artists. And you'll look back on people like de Kooning, and you'll find that they will simply be School of Paris. They'll be read as, you know, something that came out of the great Parisian artists.
Greatness is when an artist seems to be a foundation stone. And
Yes.
they're foundation stones
And
for
those
thought. You can't
guys-
really, if you took them away, it would seem like art would fall down. So then you think,
and, we
well,
know,
they're the
and we're
great
forgetting
ones,
about people like Jim Rosenquist and Klaus Oldenburg.
sure.
These are sort of giants. I mean, I think you being a New Yorker, you're right on top of it. I mean, me as an outsider, I'm coming into to town, and you know, I know these people very well. I knew Warhol. There's something kind of amazing there, absolutely amazing, exotic, amazing, original, extraordinary, dynamic stuff that we hadn't seen before. And now I know they're old. Some they're in their 60s and 70s, and some sadly have now died. But they are the greats. They're probably the great living artists.
Okay, but I don't want to lose this idea. What's happening in London today? I remember when I mentioned at the beginning,
Yes.
David, can we do this without Julian? Because you and I and Julian Schnabel had a program right here at this table in which most of it was a great give and take and back and forth and dialogue and conflict and confrontation between you and Julian, of which, as I remember, Julian said that you basically didn't know what the hell you were talking about when you suggested that there was something interesting happening in art in London. Do I remember well?
Well, yeah, it's somewhere in there, but I mean, that's it. We kind of, you know, I hope we love each other, Julian. We get on great.
But let me say with this idea, is there something?
I think it's hard and was hard, and not so much now. Well, I don't know, maybe it is, for American artists to actually believe that anything could possibly be important that came out of London. And I think it shocked a lot of people.
Same for a lot of London artists. Until 10 years ago,
it's very hard.
we all thought, well, London art is rubbish. New York is where it's at.
Yeah.
And then you ask what's happening now. What's happening now is artists in their early 30s who've been working for 10 years or so, or mid-30s, who is the sort of Damien Hirst generation, who suddenly emerged as this group, making London art now the recognised top international art spot.
Is it?
Yeah, I would have thought the the only place in the world where
because
there's
of Damien Hirst?
Yeah.
Not just
New
because
York is a
Damien
place,
dragged
the
it into
art
focus,
movement
but
is from London
there was an awful lot of new, irresistible talent under his arms.
Yeah, it was art about contemporary life. It was incredibly vivid, very strong. It was kind of had a bit of pop in it and a bit of
Very
painting,
autobiographical.
bit of film, bit of photography, a bit of autobiography, a lot of realism, a lot of black humour,
Grit.
a lot of sort of drollery.
I think you end the middle of the century with these great French artists. I mean, these really kind of amazing artists.
The 19th century.
The middle of the
Right.
century.
Right.
You know, as I said, Leger, Picasso,
Right.
Chagall,
Right.
Matisse.
French modernism.
Yeah, I mean,
Paris
unbelievable.
modernism.
French modernism,
Right.
absolutely incredible. And on the heels of them are people like de Kooning, etc. But they're lesser artists. Then you in my opinion, you're ending the century, as I say, with Oldenburg, Stella, Johns, Rauschenberg. Maybe in 2050, it might well be Jeff Koons, it might well be Damien Hirst, it might well be Tracy Emin, these kind of people. But I think it's way, way too early to start promoting them quite as strong as they're being promoted.
But you're already suggesting that the history is known and is carved in stone. That's not necessarily true.
Well,
I think the threads of history are so entangled, they start to detangle at a certain point. For instance, Picasso no longer has the ultimate priority that he had, say, even 15 years ago. Duchamp has
now
caught
moved
up
in.
so much with another generation,
Right.
and that happens continually.
Well, that's happened through
That
the artists.
emphasis changed. So the quantifying great is almost nonsensical because it's periodic. Is the emphasis, though, of this conversation possibly wrong because it's all about who's going to be there at the end of the game, and it's like this kind of Olympics thing? Is it not really? Shouldn't it revolve around? Is it useful? Is all the stuff that they do, is it
It's
useful?
yeah.
You know, can we do anything with it? Is it?
Well, what's art for now? What is art for in 1998? I mean, we knew what it was about in the Renaissance. We knew what it was about in the 50s. We knew about it in the 60s. I mean, what actually is art for today? I mean, the corporations have now left it. They don't no longer buy it. Collectors don't buy it much. I mean, what is art for now? It's a very interesting, important question.
Yeah, and there's no real solid answer. I mean, everyone has their views, and if you didn't have a view about it, then why would you be interested in it at all? And you can say on the one hand, well, it's for money. On the other hand, you can say it's about, well, life is mysterious. Who's going to tell us about that mystery? And and maybe Schnabel and Koons and Damien Hirst in their own ways. That's their endeavour, as much as it is about getting publicity and making money. It's
yeah, but see, I really believe that these artists work in a kind of a white heat. They kind of don't even know what they're doing virtually.
But all art has been like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a plus.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's why I'm saying we have to wait and see. But their energy is exciting, and that's what's pushing them to the fore right now. But time will have to work out what, when we look back, if we're still around in 2050 or 2020 even, we'll get some idea. And we'll say, well, actually, that's not interesting. Why it won't be interesting, maybe, is because we won't be living like that anymore. We'll be living like this. And so that kind of art will become irrelevant, and they will not be important. But another kind of art will be important.
I think
programmers. I think the people who buy programmers and collect programmers who can do extraordinary things with computers.
It's
that's
spooky.
What we
Well, I'm sure you're right, but it's spooky the way painting never really goes away and keeps coming back. And even now, at its trendiest, white-hot moment in art, painting is so big still.
Sure.
And I wouldn't be surprised in 2050 if there's still lots of sales of canvases and brushes and tubes of paint.
Well,
People
I would disagree with that one. I think it'll be a problem selling paintbrushes in 2050.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I think artists will still paint, but I don't think they'll render. I don't think there'll be too much rendering of, a kind of a tree and stuff like that. I think paint will, it'll go on and on.
As long as there's a Glasgow, Bernard, there'll always be a painter.
Can we explain this one, David?
Well, singularly kept painting going in Britain.
I see, you mean the kind of Scottish school.
I agree that there would be very little painting going on.
But I mean, do they look good? Do those guys look good? I mean, they look,
That's difficult to say, actually.
Well, they don't
the
look good to
Glasgow
me.
crowd.
I'm out of time, unfortunately.
Oh, right.
21 is the name of the publishing company.
21.
David's idea.
Modern Painters is the name of the magazine. Thank you all. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much for having us.
Half of it we didn't cover, so I expect you to be back here at this table to pick up on some things. No, we like this.
I'll wear that suit next time.
And I'll wear that one next time. But you owe me another 30 minutes, sir. And these people are witnesses. I've enjoyed it very much, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Much success on the publishing and on the magazine and on the gallery and on whatever career, wherever you are.
Whatever it is you do.
Whatever you want to do next. I certainly hope I'll be here. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night.